everyone, welcome back to another episode of Subconscious Medicine. So happy you guys are here. To all of my hurricane survivors, hope that you're safe. I know certain sections of Tampa got hit pretty bad. Knock on wood, everyone's okay. And there isn't too much damage. Currently, we have sunny skies. Typical Florida weather is kind of just all over the place, especially during the summer. So I'm hoping that everyone's safe. I know it's kind of creeping up the East Coast. So if you're in line to get hit, please stay safe. Please stay home. And yeah, don't go anywhere if you don't have to. Okay, well, being home for the last few days, not being able to go anywhere and kind of being stuck inside due to the weather, got me thinking a lot about how much of a routine girl I am and how being stuck inside can throw me off my routine a lot. And I've always known that I'm someone that is very regimented and disciplined in terms of daily routine and daily tasks, and I do certain things at certain times, and in large part I think that is sort of a side effect. It's not the right word, but of my OCD. I was diagnosed with OCD maybe 2 years ago, year ago, I don't know, somewhere around there. But my point being that I think that in a large way that diagnosis manifests in the form of daily rituals and habits, and not doing those obsessions at certain periods of within certain periods of times can really throw off my ability to focus on other things. But as I was saying, being stuck inside all day for the last few days has definitely thrown off my routine, and it's been a challenge, to say the least, a healthy one, but a challenge to adjust my routine to try to, maintain productivity, but also be safe and be smart. But yeah, so I don't know, I've just been thinking about how grateful I am for my routine and then little things I do every single day that have helped me so much to sort of deal with those obsessions and compulsions that I experience a lot. And everyone always is oh, build a morning routine, build a night routine. And yes, I'm big proponents of that, but or a big proponent of that, but I think that a lot of times those things can be a little out of touch, and they are just going through the motions and doing things that seem like they would help but really don't. And I want to mention too that I think this is something you have to take with a grain of salt, because no one's daily routine or night routine or morning routine or anything should look the same. These are schedules that we create for ourselves so that we can be the most efficient and make the most out of our day. There's truly not enough hours in the day, and so the same schedule is not going to work for everybody. I feel the best example of this is working out. Great movement every day is wonderful. I try to carve out time for movement every single day. That being said, I personally prefer movement in the morning or even midday. I really, really, really don't like working out past dinner time. That's not my idea of a fun time, but I know tons of people who much prefer working out at night. Their ideal schedule would be get a little bit more sleep in the morning, go to work, and then work out after work. So whatever works for you, but unless you try it, you won't know. So yeah, that's just a silly example of something, but I think that reigns true for most things. Something as simple as showering too. I prefer to shower at night because it helps me relax and decompress before bed. But I know a lot of people who like to shower in the morning because it sort of wakes them up. So there's a lot of trial and error in figuring out what's right for you, but at the end of the day, I think that building that routine and having a schedule that allows for spontaneity at certain points in the day, but also is regimented enough that you feel productive and you feel like you can maximize the hours in a day. I think that can be really important, and it can help those of us that get anxious about, like, okay, are we doing enough with our life, are we working hard enough, whatever. If you can go look back at your to-do list at the end of the day and visualize your productivity, I think that at least for me can help a lot. Um, so I wanted to just talk about a few things that I do or built into my daily routine to help me feel the most productive and just kind of feel like I have my life together. um, okay. So the first thing I try to do that I feel like correlates with that whole like morning routine trend that you see all over social media is just instead of like, okay, let's do the eye mask, let's do whatever, like that type of stuff, just make your morning enjoyable, right? Like I call myself a morning person, but I don't like the mornings. Like no one really likes to like wake up and look at their to-do list and be like overwhelmed by the day. But if you can implement little things in the morning to make it more enjoyable, it makes waking up 10 times easier. So for instance, if you have a food or drink in the morning that you look forward to that you only drink in the morning, then you know that when you wake up and you're trying to pry yourself out of bed, you know that as soon as you do that, you get to have that snack or breakfast or something to drink. So I know for a lot of people that's coffee. I don't personally drink coffee, so instead it's an energy drink. I try to limit them only to the morning because if I drink them too late in the day, then I won't be able to sleep. So every morning I usually have a Celsius, and that makes my morning enjoyable because I like that, and I can't really have that at any other point in the day. Um, Also, I'm not a huge breakfast person. I've been trying lately to incorporate at least a little something in the morning with my Celsius just to give me a little boost of energy, especially if I'm going to be working out in the morning that day. So even if it's just like for me, it's usually a piece of fruit. So like an apple, banana, a peach, whatever it is, just a small piece of fruit just to give me a little bit of fuel for the morning. Other people I know are big breakfast people, whether it's like something extravagant like, I don't know, an omelet, avocado toast, whatever it is, having something in the morning that you can look forward to, I think helps a lot. And then make sure that you don't let that food or drink spread into like other meals or snacks throughout the day because you want it to be special, right? You want it to be something that you enjoy in the morning that sets the morning apart from the other parts of the day so that it's still exciting and you don't get like bored by it. Um which goes into my second thing. So I drink the energy drink mostly because I just like the taste of it, but also it gives me energy because I'm an early riser. I love waking up to the sun, and so I keep my blinds open 24/7, and most of the time I don't set an alarm unless I really feel like I need to. But yeah, am I just think that it makes the day feel so much longer, and it's so worth it. You never regret waking up early. To me, I always regret waking up late. So obviously, like, get your rest, and if you need to sleep in and you have that luxury to sleep in for a few more hours and get like an adequate amount of sleep, then do that. But I think that there's nothing more special than feeling like you're awake before the world is. If I wake up and it's still dark and I get to enjoy the sunrise while I have my little fruit bowl and a Celsius, that's like top tier, the best. I also think that there's a lot of times in the morning to be like passive about tasks, but it's still knocking something off your to do list. So, for instance, while I'm drinking my Celsius and watching the sunrise and grabbing a snack, I can also be scrolling through my email or replying to messages on the subconscious medicine Instagram or whatever the case may be. But just doing little small tasks that aren't overwhelming. I can do them as I eat or as I relax. But I can maximize how productive I am by doing those at the same time, and that proves to be really helpful throughout the rest of the day when I have to face tasks that are a little bit more time consuming or like labor intensive and draw more of my attention. But yeah, also when you wake up early, it helps to not feel rushed in the getting ready process. Something that I've been trying to be a lot more intentional about is wearing my confidence. So, to me, that looks like getting dressed every day in something that I feel confident in. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm dressing up every day necessarily. Like, it very well could be athletic clothes. Sometimes that's what I feel best in. But regardless of what type of clothing it is, the point being that you're putting something on your body that you feel confident in and leaving the door feeling well dressed so that you can present yourself in the way that you choose. So, having time in the morning to have that freedom and to try on different outfits and whatever the case may be and figure out what it is that you feel most comfortable in that day is best. I used to be someone who always set out an outfit like the night before for the morning, and though I don't think that's an awful practice, what I found was a lot of times I'd wake up in the morning, I'd throw on the outfit and I'd feel like, meh, like even if it was an outfit I'd worn before, it I just something about like that morning, that's not what I wanted to wear, or that's not what made me feel confident or made me feel best. And I didn't have the time to change. But even if it's just carving out like an extra 10 minutes, like I'm not saying everyone needs to wake up at 5 a.m., but if you usually wake up at 7 and instead you wake up at 6:50, and by wake up, I mean get out of bed. There's a difference. I don't mean just set your alarm earlier and then lay in bed and scroll on your phone. But waking up just like 10, 15, 20 minutes earlier, and you could do it like even in increments like that if you wanted to really like make it last for a long time. But yeah, waking up just a few minutes earlier can make a huge difference in the morning, especially when you're kind of sluggish and things might be taking you longer than they normally do just because you're sleepy or whatever. But make time for yourself. Like the morning is such a quiet time. It's so peaceful and no one's really going to bother you because they're tired too. So if you can carve out a little bit of extra time so you can truly enjoy that and get things done that you need to get done and make yourself feel good and feel pretty, for some people I know that involves things like makeup or doing your hair. I like never do my hair. I throw it up in a claw clip or I throw it up in a low pony and I'm out the door. I also don't really wear makeup almost ever. So that's not part of my morning routine. But if that's something that makes you feel best, then you should do that and you should make time for that. It doesn't matter that other people don't do it. It's about making time for things that are going to make you feel better and make you feel like you can tackle the day. And if makeup is something that helps you, then who cares? Incorporate that into your morning routine. But the less you feel rushed, the more confident you're going to feel leaving the door in the morning. Um, and yeah, just having that morning routine, knowing what it is that makes you feel best, that can be a huge benefit. Also, something I want to talk about that has become particularly um, interesting to me in recent years with working with people who have autism. I have learned a lot about auditory stimulation and how that can help a lot of autistic people in overwhelming or stressful situations. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but a lot of times people who are autistic or have other cognitive deficits will carry around headphones with them or wear them in places that typically seem inappropriate, not in a disrespectful way, just in a like you wouldn't typically see those types of tools in those settings. But it's oftentimes a strategy to calm the central nervous system for people who have autism and can easily become overstimulated. Now, I myself am not autistic, but I think that there's something to learn there. I think that a lot of times we overlook the power of something like music or any type of sound or auditory noise just to be a source of relaxation or be a calming um, element to a task that might usually be overwhelming or stressful. So When I say balance these in the morning, I mean, I used to find myself waking up, getting out of bed, immediately putting in headphones and playing music. I do live with roommates, so I wouldn't play it out loud. Obviously, if I didn't live with roommates, I would play it out loud, but immediately putting in earbuds and listening to music or listening to a podcast or something. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but I found that at the end of the day, I would look back at my day and I would realize that I had very few moments of silence. And I think that sometimes silence can be healthy. It forces you to engage with the thoughts that are happening inside of your head and almost like have a conversation with yourself and recognize those thought patterns. And I found that I was neglecting those because I constantly had some type of auditory stimulation pushing through my eardrums. So don't get me wrong, I still listen to podcasts a lot. I still love watching Grey's Anatomy. I still love listening to music, but I'm trying to um, designate what types of settings I engage with those stimulants. So, for instance, I'm trying to listen to music only while I'm working out or only while I'm in the car. And I'm trying to, again, watch Grey's Anatomy instead of sitting in my bed in the morning watching it. I watch it while I go for a run on the treadmill. Um, so again, you're not only maximizing your productivity by killing two birds with one stone, but you're also making sure that you're intentionally carving out some time to hear your own thoughts and actually engage in true silence. And I think that that can be really helpful even as a college student. Like, people always think, oh, well, you're studying, that's silence. Well, first of all, a lot of people study with music playing, although I'm not a proponent of that. And I don't do that personally because I find it to be really distracting, but a lot of people do. And even those who don't, you, yes, I suppose, aren't don't have any stimulation, but I would argue that reading a textbook or reading your notes or whatever is stimulation in a sense. You are sort of like, when you read something, even if it's in your head, you can hear yourself speak. So you're not engaging in like abstract thought in that instance. But yeah, I I don't know. I think it's something that's at least worth a shot. Maybe it won't make as much a difference to you guys, but even just reflect on how much silence you encounter in a given day. And I think it might be a little shocking because I guess I never really put much thought into it, but I really don't experience a lot of silence and it can be really healing. So I encourage you to do the same. Okay, fuel your body. This is something that I am working on as well. Um, it's hard. It's hard. I understand. And please keep in mind that I'm not saying this to people who are maybe experiencing disordered eating patterns or anything like that. I'm just speaking very generally. Your body needs fuel and it needs healthy and nutritious foods, and I'm all here for the snacks and the sweet treats. If that's what you like, then eat what you want. Don't limit yourself, don't ignore cravings. That's your body telling you what it needs, but your body needs fuel. As I mentioned, I've been trying to incorporate breakfast back into my life. I haven't eaten a true breakfast in years, could not tell you the last time, but I find that I hit this like midday slump and I don't know if breakfast or like a little snack, and it's not even breakfast, it's a piece of fruit. But I don't know if that's gonna help, but I figured it was something that I can try, something I haven't tried before, and maybe it'll make a difference. I haven't noticed anything yet, but I also haven't noticed any negative side effects from it. So it's so worth it if it just makes you feel a little bit perkier throughout the day and a little bit more energized. Um, Also, something else that I've been working on a lot for the past few years actually, is segmenting my meals, which sounds stupid, like meals are already kind of segmented for you, but one thing about being an athlete was I often found myself not eating all day because I was playing all day, and then I'd get home and I'd be starving, and I'd eat like one really big meal at the end of the day, and then I'd feel super tired and lethargic afterwards. And sometimes that would last even till the morning. So since leaving athletics behind, something I've been really, really intentional about is trying to eat actual meals, like at normal meal times and, spacing them out and just being intentional, making sure that each of those meals has every food group and, is colorful and nutritious. It's also respecting what it is that I like and my food cravings and those things, but it's fueling my body. And I know that this is much easier said than done. And if you're struggling to fuel your body in a healthy way, please, please find there's so many resources. Please ask someone for help and seek out help because that's so important. And I understand the struggle, but it's so important to fuel our bodies. Something that I found to be really helpful in this, for me at least, is have healthy foods already prepped in the fridge. So I will say that naturally I am like a healthy eater. As I've mentioned, I think before, I grew up with kind of an almond mom, and so I'm used to those healthier foods, I feel like, and I haven't tried many of like unhealthy, I guess is very subjective, but like I just enjoy foods that are traditionally deemed as like healthy foods. So I will say that. But the point being, have foods that are nutritious and you do enjoy already made in the refrigerator so that they're easy, they're accessible. You can't use the excuse of, oh, I don't have time or blah, 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 whatever. You grab it and you go out the door. You eat it on your way to work if you have to, or you eat it on your walk to class if you have to. But having those foods already prepped in the fridge can make a huge difference. I will say I've tried meal prepping and it's not for me. I don't think it's for me. Similarly to what I was saying about prepping my outfits the night beforehand, I just feel like I get around to the meal and I'm excited to eat and I'm excited to feel my body, and then I see what's made and I'm like, not really what I wanted, and then I just feel like underwhelmed. So I'm not a huge fan of meal prepping, but I would say I'm a fan of like ingredient prepping. So I don't make a full meal, but maybe I make like, um, I don't know, maybe like some roasted veggies and I have those in the fridge and I can eat them with whatever else I want at that moment in time that I'm eating a meal, but I don't have it like in a prepped container and like segmented out. If that works for you, that's amazing. I wish it did because it seems like it would save even more time, but I've learned it's just not really my thing. So anyways, I would say a great start to that is at least prepping ingredients and having those ready. Something else is like I always have chicken in the fridge, like grilled chicken, shredded chicken, whatever. Usually I'm making it on my own just because I like it better that way. And then you can throw it in a wrap, you can throw it on a salad, you can eat it by itself, you can make some rice, like whatever the case may be. But it's just so versatile, and I also am like trying to eat a high protein diet, so it makes it really easy. But whatever the foods are that you enjoy most and are going to fuel your body, have those prepped and ready in the fridge, and I feel like it makes fueling your body so much easier. For me, it cuts out a lot of the mental distractions about eating and food insecurity and those types of things, and I'm able to push those aside when I see healthy and nutritious foods in front of me when I open the fridge, and it makes the process of eating and fueling my body much more enjoyable and a lot less stressful. um okay, I also was having this conversation with my boyfriend actually yesterday, and something that I have learned in the last few years is my best habit is that I truly feel like every single day I challenge myself emotionally, cognitively, or physically. It doesn't have to be all three. If it is, even better. But I was actually talking to a doctor a few years ago because I was having a lot of trouble sleeping. I don't know what it was, but I would lay down at the end of the night and I just I don't know, I couldn't sleep. My mind was going like a million miles an hour, and I had a lot of trouble sleeping. And I will say, I still do have trouble sleeping. I'm by no means like a good sleeper. I sometimes have to take like supplements or whatever to help me sleep. And that's fine too if you have to do that. But there are a few things, a few habits that I've built to help my sleep, and I really do feel like they've made a difference. And the biggest one is challenging yourself. These are things you can easily keep track of, but I want to go into what I mean by each of these a little bit more. But I think my doctor laid it out in a really great way. Basically, she said, let's imagine you wake up one day and you have a test like in the afternoon. And so you spend all morning preparing for the test. And then you sit down and for 2 hours, you take the exam. And then after the exam, maybe you stress about your grade for an hour. And then after that, you dive into some homework and blah, blah, blah. You come home, you shower, you eat, you go to bed. And you're laying in bed and you can't fall asleep. That day you challenged yourself cognitively a lot, right? So you demanded a lot from your brain performed for a prolonged period of time, and you presented yourself with a big challenge and you tackled that challenge. Okay, let's move on to day two. Day two, you wake up, you go for a 6 mile run, you come home, you, I don't know, do whatever, and then you go for a walk with your parents, and then you, I don't know, move furniture in your room, blah, 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 whatever. That person is physically exhausted, right? So they come home and they haven't been challenged mentally or emotionally, but they have been challenged physically. So, who sleeps better? Well, the person that's physically tired lays down in bed and their mind's racing and their bones, like their muscles are achy, but their head can't relax and can't fall asleep. Okay, let's take the other person. The other person is mentally drained. They have no social battery left. They're not going to engage with friends, but they lay down and their body is still at 100. They haven't used any of their like physical capacity for the day. And likelihood is that both people are going to struggle to sleep. So, again, my doctor was just using this as an example to sort of draw it out for me, but the point is that if you can incorporate something that challenges you in each three of these ways into every day, or two of these ways, you're far more likely to be able to sleep at the end of the day because you're genuinely tired in more than one way. I know that, again, there's not enough hours in the day. Sometimes we can't fit in a workout, sometimes we can't fit in this or that or whatever, but I think that these things can be made really simple. You don't have to go run 10 miles. If you can, even if you can do a mile walk, that is great. That's better than nothing. And don't sell yourself short. Don't cut it out and say, "Oh, that's stupid. I can't get it in 10 miles, so I'm not going to do it." No, go for the mile run. Like, just do it. It's better than nothing, and it's still a little bit of time that you set aside to do something for yourself and to exhaust your physical capacity for that day. Um, and then cognitively for students, again, it looks a lot like studying. For working professionals, maybe it's researching something for your profession. I feel like this will change a lot due to a person's profession, but challenging yourself cognitively also just grows your brain. And who doesn't want to be smarter, and who doesn't want to learn a little something every day? And then emotionally, I think that this is really important. This is something that I'm working on because specifically, as I've mentioned, I don't like associate with a spiritual being or identity. And so for people who do, maybe their emotional development comes in the form of like a religious practice. For me, it doesn't, because I don't incorporate those things into my daily routine. But it doesn't mean that I can't be emotionally growing. And so a lot of times that's like intentional communication with my friends or my partner or a family member about how I'm feeling, or discussing how they feel with them and trying to help them work through something. Maybe it's just telling someone I love them. Maybe it's scrolling through my camera roll and thinking about like how loved I am and how many great people I have in my life. But actually engaging in true emotion is really important. It could be anger too. It could be frustration. It could be stress. It doesn't have to be a positive emotion. Like, it's so unrealistic to think that we're just going to be happy go lucky people all the time. That's not feasible. Can we try to have like an optimistic perspective on things? Yes. And I think that that's great, but we also can engage in negative emotion. That's just part of human life. So, using our emotions to effectively communicate is a really difficult skill, something I find personally challenging, and I think we always kind of have to work on. But engaging in emotional responses can be exhausting, and I think that that's really important to incorporate into our everyday if at the end of the day we want to feel like we fulfilled our purpose and used all of our physical, mental capacity to tackle the day and to learn something or to do something great or to help someone or whatever the case may be. But again, I say all this to say that if you're having any trouble sleeping, there's so many things you could do. You could take melatonin, works for some people. I've heard magnesium works for some people. Um, you know, so many other things that aren't like medical, but I am a very strong proponent of if you challenge yourself every single day, it helps exponentially with sleep. I find on days where I'm studying or I'm working hard on subconscious medicine, that's my cognitive, I'm working out or going for a run or whatever the case may be, that's my physical, and emotionally, I'm talking to someone I love or I'm helping someone through a tough time. Those are the days where I sleep best. So if you can try to challenge yourself in each of those three ways, I would love to hear if that works for you, if that helps you sleep, if it helps you settle down at the end of the day. It also, maybe it's a mental thing, but it just helps me feel like the day was productive and it was useful and I made the most of it. I also think that challenging ourselves in these ways is ultimately where goals come from, right? So, if you are talking with a friend and you don't feel like you're able to meet their need in a certain way, maybe that creates the opportunity to establish a goal moving forward and how you communicate with that person. Or, maybe you used to run 2 miles and be exhausted, but now you run 2 miles and it's a breeze. Maybe that can make room for a new goal to run more or like find a new workout that's exciting and challenging. So I strongly encourage you to challenge yourself in these ways and just see if it makes a difference. Maybe it won't, but at the very least, maybe it won't in your sleep, but at the very least, you know that you're being productive, and I think that that is at least a calming realization to make. Okay, the next is reflect on everything you were able to accomplish in that day. This is sort of rooted in my own personal anxiety, but a lot of times I get to the end of the day and I cannot tell you what I did that day because I overlook things as if they're not like an accomplishment in and of themselves. Um, However, something I found really, really helps is if I force myself to take out my to do list from that day and I read through each item, and it makes me realize that there's actually a lot I accomplished that day, and I need to give myself credit and I need to treat myself with grace and recognize my own achievements. There's actually this brand, oh, I can't think of it, but it's a clothing brand, and I got advertised like a sweatshirt of theirs or something on my Instagram, so I was just scrolling through their website, and they have a sweatshirt it has like a little bear on it, and it says, "It's okay if the only thing you did today was get coffee." And I don't drink coffee, so I've never got a sweatshirt, but I just think that's so cute. Like, the message being that you don't have to, I don't know, like, the Olympics are happening right now. I don't have to win a gold medal every single day, but you do have to recognize what you accomplished every day. I think that can be really eye-opening, especially for people who stress about their like personal achievements. So if you sit there and force yourself to go through every single item on your to-do list, it forces you to give yourself credit for what you've accomplished for that day. And it also can help you to visualize the specific ways in which you dedicated time to making yourself a better person or employee or student or whatever. So, I like just thinking about the last few days where I've sort of been like stuck in my room and haven't been able to do much because of the weather. I did things to still be productive, and then reflecting on those things at the end of the day helped me realize, like, okay, I may not be able to go outside, but I made the most of the day. So, for example, as I mentioned, I finished my internship, and one of the things I had on my to-do list was to post on LinkedIn about it, and just like a simple thank you post, tag the place that I worked at, share some photos, post that on LinkedIn, update my LinkedIn that I no longer worked there, and then with that, send a thank you email to my supervisor. And those are things that didn't take a lot of time, but they did take a lot of thought. And they had been on my to-do list, and I figured, okay, I can't go outside anyways. I'm on my computer doing stuff for subconscious medicine. Let me bang this task out too. And so at the end of the day, I was able to say, like, you know what? I knocked out these 2 tasks, and that makes me a better employee. It makes me a more marketable student, and therefore, like, it contributed to making myself a better person. So, maybe I wasn't able to go outside and do X, Y, and Z today because of something I have no control over, but instead of getting upset about that and feeling isolated, I can recognize that I made the most out of the day and I still accomplished things, and I deserve credit for those things. So, not only, I feel like people always say, like, oh, make a to-do list. Yes, definitely make a to-do list, but even more importantly, look at your to-do list at the end of the day. So when you're crossing things off, don't like scribble them out. Don't, if it's a digital to-do list, never like erase it, but I would cross it out or check it off, and that way at the end of the day you can look at all the things that you accomplished. If you really want to challenge yourself, something I've done at times too, where I'm feeling extra like bad about my productivity that day, is I will write out everything I remember doing that day and then compare it to my original to-do list. Likelihood is that you're missing a lot of things because, again, we overlook our own accomplishments. But I think that reflecting on little things every single day can just make us be more respectful to ourselves and honor and credit our own productivity, which can be really helpful. Um, Also, okay, so everyone talks about like Sunday reset, right? Love a Sunday reset. I do one every Sunday. And it's all like the cliche, typical Sunday tasks. Love it. However, I also try to do a nightly cleanup, and it's a huge part of my night routine, and I strongly encourage you to do it. It doesn't have to be extensive, but little things around the house that make your space clean so that in the morning there's no eyesores, right? You like wake up, you're in a clean space, you feel you don't feel clouded, right? You feel like ready to tackle the day. So, for example, if I'm gonna start the dishwasher, always do it at night so that in the morning when I wake up, it's all clean dishes. Even if I don't have time to put those dishes away in the morning, I can still take the dishes that I need for my breakfast or for my Celsius in the morning, take those out of the dishwasher and use them. Um, Obviously, if you do have time to empty the dishwasher, even better, but I realize sometimes we don't have time for that in the morning, which is why you should wake up earlier, just saying. But anyways, yes. So organizing your space at night to make for a clean space. This can also help when, like, something I noticed this summer when I was working basically a 9 to 5 was I'd wake up, I wouldn't have a ton of time in the morning because that's when I tried to knock out some subconscious medicine stuff. And so at least it meant that when I got home from my 9 to 5, I came home to a clean space, which I found really relaxing and calming after like a stressful day with kids and all that kind of stuff. So as much as I'm here for the Sunday reset, I also think setting aside 10-15 minutes every single night before you go to bed to clean your space can be so helpful. I always do it while watching Grey's Anatomy or listening to a podcast or listening to something because it makes it more enjoyable for me, and that's a little bit of auditory stimulation for the day. But yeah, just walking around the house doing little things, making sure your dirty laundry's in your in the hamper, making sure your shoes are put away, like I don't know, little things that can make a really, really big difference. Um, this also goes into the next one, which is we were talking about to-do lists, we were talking about like little things that you can do. Something that I try to do is I use a digital to-do list, doesn't matter if you do digital or physical though, is instead of writing my to-do list by times, like this is what I do in the morning, this is what I do at, I write it by urgency. So if there's something that really, really needs to get done, or something that takes a lot of time, and even if it's not hard, it's just like very time consuming and demanding of my attention, those things go at the top of the to-do list, so I tackle them first. I used to find myself, especially with schoolwork, doing the sort of like easiest assignment first. And I learned that that kind of like bites you in the ass at the end of the day. And so I've been really trying to practice. I know I'm not like in school right now, but with other aspects of my life. So hopefully this will transfer to my schoolwork this semester, is do the tasks that are most urgent and most demanding first. And then that way you're fresh, you're on it. And then when you're tired and lethargic, you're doing things that are like kind of passive and are simple and they're not as demanding. And I found that to be a great experience in general, like day to day tasks and with subconscious medicine and whatever, and with work. So I'm hoping that, again, this is something I haven't implemented in the past in terms of like school and in an educational setting, but I plan to this coming semester, and I think it's going to be a really great experience. So get back to you on that. But yeah, I strongly encourage you to sort of like reorganize that to do list. Or list of tasks by urgency instead of like in chronological order. Um, okay. The next one is what I find personally to be the hardest, which I think says a lot about like who I am. Not a great quality, but it's true. And that is ask for help when you need it. And I know this sounds stupid as like a daily task type of thing, but we crave productivity as human beings. We want to get things done. Again, we want to like check things off our to-do list. You could be so much more efficient if you just ask for help. Instead of sitting there for hours trying to troubleshoot something, just ask someone who knows more, who's better at something than you. Admit that to yourself, be selfless, and ask for help. It takes practice. It's not easy to do. It's often really, really hard to admit, but it pays off so much because you save so much time trying to figure it out yourself by just asking someone, and maybe they can, do it for you, maybe they can help you out, maybe they can teach you a trick to remember in the future. But I just find that I never regret asking for help. It's always a fruitful experience, and as much as overwhelming as it can be, I think it's a really selfless act that is admirable about people. Something my dad has always said to me, he like lives and dies by this quote, and it's that anything worth doing is worth doing right. And something I've noticed about myself is I crave like validation from people that I'm doing things right, whether that be a professor or an employee, or rather an employer. But I sometimes mess up because I try to do things that I don't know how to do. And instead of just asking someone to help me along the way or to give me a little bit of guidance, I try to troubleshoot on my own. And I'm not saying like don't try at all on your own and just always rely on other people. There's definitely a balance to be established here, but if I just asked someone for a little bit of guidance to like set me on the right path, I could have done it well, and I could have done it right the first time, and it would have taken a lot less time than me sitting there like staring at the computer trying to figure it out. So please ask for help, and it can be with the littlest things or like the biggest tasks, but it just saves you so much time, and it helps so much in like being independent. Like that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but if you're able to ask for help once and learn how to do it the right way in the most efficient way, then moving forward, you can be independent with a task all the time, as opposed to constantly trying to do it on your own and constantly messing up or needing someone to fix what you did wrong or whatever the case may be. So again, something I'm going to try to implement this semester at school. I'm a really self driven person in the classroom. Sometimes I find that it's helpful, actually, most of the time, but there are definitely times too where I could use some help that I don't ask for. I feel like most of the time it comes in the form of technology. I'm not a very tech savvy person, but I don't like asking for help because I don't know much about tech and I feel like lost and stupid, to be honest. But again, I could save so much time if I just ask someone. So ask for help when you need it. Okay, next one, again, sounds kind of stupid, but tell someone you love them. As I was talking about before with being like emotionally exhausted at the end of the day and it improving my sleep so much, I realized for a long time that I have so many people in my life that I love and I don't tell them enough. And I love being told that someone loves me. So why wouldn't I want to return that favor? This kind of goes hand in hand with like people saying like, "Oh, just give the compliment." Like if you're thinking someone or thinking something about someone that's positive, they want to hear it. Like, when have you ever heard a compliment about yourself and been like, ew, like left a sour taste in your mouth? No, like everyone wants to be complimented. So if you are thinking, wow, that girl has great hair, or oh my God, I love their style, or wow, he smells great, tell him, tell her, who cares? Like, it takes 5 seconds out of your day and it could completely turn around their day. It's always worth it. And same thing with telling someone you love them. Life is too damn short and it takes 5 seconds. I feel the same way about text messages. People who have like hundreds of unopened text messages drive me crazy. Crazy. I never have an unopened text message ever. And if I do it, like I was busy and I didn't see it. And the second I see it, I respond. And like right now, I have no text messages. Like there's no bubble. And it just drives me crazy when people do that because I think to myself, that's someone that reached out to you because they had something to share and you don't even have like the decency to respond. It absolutely drives me crazy when people do that, or when people are like, "Oh, we'll get back to you," and they never do. Drives me crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just answer a text message, just tell people you love them. Um you never know what's going to happen, and it's just always worth it. And being able to finish the day knowing that you shared your love with someone else, I think is extra special. I think that this is particularly important to me because I'm away from most of the people that I love. So it's important that I tell them because I can't show them my love for them usually. Um, like I'm long distance with my boyfriend. I live thousands of miles away from my parents. My best friend lives in a different state too. So like it's not as easy to show my love for people, and so like they rely on me to tell them that I love them. So every day, just tell someone you love them. It's always worth it. Um, okay. Also something that I've sort of like mentioned informally, but incorporate like a time for decompression every single day at the end of the day and make it what you want. Again, nothing is universal here. You need to figure out what works for you, but you need to find time to decompress. This is something that I discovered throughout like college, but especially this past semester, and my summer classes too. I found that I was just like going through the motions, and I would work, I would come home, I would study, or last semester I would go to class, I'd come home, I'd study, and I would like just try to jump into bed at the end of the day. So I'd study, study, study up until like I'm literally falling asleep over my textbook. I'd run, brush my teeth, like wash my face, and then I'd hop in bed and try to go to sleep. And again, I'd have trouble sleeping because I had no decompression time. I made no time for me no time to just relax. 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is, whatever you can afford to set aside. But I was expecting to go from like studying statistics to falling asleep within 5 minutes. Like, that's so unrealistic because my mind's still running, even though my body's in bed. And even though I'm exhausted, I had so much trouble sleeping because my mind is still go, go, go. And when life is that demanding, which it pretty much always is, like, newsflash, life doesn't slow down. But when it's that demanding, you need to make time for you. So I would recommend that you start with something that takes very little effort so that it feels less overwhelming and it's really easy to implement. And then you can build off of that if you want to. So maybe it's watching a show, right? That takes like no effort. Prop up your computer if you have a TV, whatever, and watch a show for a few minutes. But genuinely set aside, like, okay, physically I can stay up for 10 more minutes. So for the last 10 minutes, I'm going to watch a show and then I'm going to turn it off and then I'm going to go to bed. Or, maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's that nightly cleanup. That's your 10 to 15 minutes for yourself. Or maybe it's like a relaxing shower and like a 10-minute shower in the hot water. Or, whatever the case may be, but a true moment for decompression, I think can be so, so, so useful, and it can make your mind tired to go to bed, or it can at least calm like the academics that are running in your mind, or same thing with work, or whatever. Like, if you're just doing something that's really demanding and then you try to hop into bed and go to sleep, your mind can't slow down as fast as your body can. So I strongly encourage you to build some decompression into your schedule. This is actually something that I'm kind of nervous about moving into the fall semester because I, again, struggled so much with this last semester and then during my summer classes. And I feel like I've done a great job at building decompression into my schedule for the last month or 2 months, where, well, I've just been working my internship and not taking classes. And I really, really, really want to continue that into the fall. And I'm a little nervous that I might like lose myself in studying, and yeah, so it's going to be hard for me. This is something that's a constant challenge for me, is like carving out that time, but I'm genuinely making it like a priority for this upcoming semester because I've seen the difference that it can make, and I strongly encourage you to do the same. Okay. Last one is kind of a hot take, but I feel very strongly about this. And I say this from the perspective that social media is not the problem, which again, I know is a hot take. I think that our generation is the first generation to grow up with social media in our faces, and people are reacting in extremely strong and polarized ways, and they're very for or against social media. They think it's all good or all bad. I do not feel that way. I do not think social media platforms are the problem. I think that creators are the problem. I think that people abuse the resources that social media platforms give them to create unsafe spaces, which is essentially where the whole mission of this podcast came from. Is my goal is to create a safe space for young women who are interested in lifestyle, wellness, and mental health content, and that's what I push out because that's what I consume. Also, the influencers that I watch and that I, listen to if they have a podcast or I consume in some way are doing the same thing I am. And so because they serve a purpose for me, I'm looking to serve that purpose for other people. At this point in time on a very small scale, but hopefully like on a larger scale. But in my opinion, the social media platforms themselves are not the problem. So where most people would say like, okay, limit yourself to this many minutes on social media a day and blah blah blah, and use that as a daily habit to maximize your productivity. I don't feel like that's the fix. Now, granted, I do have time limits on my social media, and I do that, and I don't have all social media platforms because some of them I just don't feel like are healthy, and I would scroll too much or whatever. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do those things, but I think that the most important way that you make the most out of our world that relies on social media is curate your feed. You have the power to follow specific accounts, block others, not follow some. You have the power to do that as a person on their platform. I think that this is easiest to do on Instagram, hardest to do on TikTok, definitely, because on TikTok, people generally only look at the For You page, whereas I only look at the following page. But curate your social media. You choose who you follow. If you are following people who make you feel bad, if you are following people who don't deserve their platform, that is your problem. That is your fault. It is not the creator's fault, because the creator is actually doing a great job. They are gaining followers and they're getting views. They're doing their job. You're not doing yours. You're not curating a feed full of people that empower you and that motivate you and that make you feel good about yourself. Instead, you're doing the opposite. You're hate watching. You're giving bad people views and money and power, and that's a problem. There's tons of creators that I love. Specifically, if you go to Subconscious Medicine Instagram, I follow a ton of brands and creators that I love personally. So I feel like that's a great way to see like the types of people that I follow. But if there is someone that is stressing me out, if they're making me feel like not good about myself or whatever, that's okay. Not everyone's going to be for you. Not everyone is going to communicate through the internet in a way that you are receptive of and is helpful for your growth and your understanding. And so if that's the case, don't follow them. It's so simple. Like, and also you can grow out of people. Like, there are people that I used to follow just a year ago that now I like don't really resonate with. Maybe I grew, maybe they grew, maybe hopefully we both grew, whatever the case may be, but I don't see eye to eye with them anymore and I just don't follow. It's that simple. And so instead of like trying to force yourself to stay off social media, because I really feel like there's no longevity in that, and social media isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Sorry, but it's not. Then if you're having trouble like staying off the platforms entirely, which I understand it is hard, I clearly don't do it because I'm creating on them now. Um, Spend time to actually curate your social media. Stop following people that don't make you feel good. Stop following people you don't have a relationship with either. I'm not talking about like creators here. I'm talking about like people you followed because you went to high school with them. Like if you don't have a relationship with them and you don't care to keep up to date with their life, unfollow them. No one's going to notice. No one's going to care. It's fine. And even if they do, you didn't do anything wrong. You just said like, hey, I don't know you. I don't care to stay up to date with your life. I don't care that your sister's married or like whatever. Like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. But I think that building a social media platform that's safe for you is so important because it's here. We're not going to escape it. And it's our job to curate a feed rather, that is healthy and sustainable for us to help us build our internet community, whether you're creating or not. So, sorry, I got like heated there, but I hate when people just attack social media platforms and make them seem all bad. I understand that there are dangers, and when we talk about like kids on social media and whatever the case may be, there's concerns, and I think that those are valid, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it can be used as a tool, a really great one if used appropriately. And our biggest priority right now needs to be curating our individual feeds so that we can be the best consumers of content that we can be. So yeah. And I don't think you can curate your feed in a day, but if you're consuming it every day, the reason this is a daily habit is because the assumption is that you're consuming some type of social media every day, and if it's curated, I think it can be a lot healthier of a practice than just aimlessly scrolling. Okay, yeah. I did also want to say that I don't want this to come across as like I'm the most productive person or I have the healthiest lifestyle or like the best daily routine. I definitely don't. at all. There, as I mentioned multiple times, there's tons of things that I still struggle with to this day and new things that I'm trying to implement. But these are just a few things that I've noticed that have helped me over the year. And I think that they could help some other people. So I thought I would share, but I would love to hear some things that you do in your daily routine. I think that can be really interesting to see how different our days can be. So I'd love for you to share, but I really appreciate you all listening in this week. Thank you so much. Please go follow subconscious.medicine on Instagram. I have been doing so much work to the Instagram. I don't know if you guys have noticed if you are already there, but I think it looks really cute and I'm excited for what's to come. So if you could give that a follow, that's greatly appreciated. But love you all. Again, stay safe if you are in the path of this nasty hurricane. And bye, guys. See you next week.